Company director appears in court to face fraud charge over bottled water controversy. The local jobless rate goes up to 3.7%. And Trump trying to bring together Putin and Zelensky for a face-to-face meeting after the U.S. president's talks with the Ukraine leader at the White House. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. A director of Shinding Trade Company, which supplied bottled water to government premises, appeared in court this morning to face a charge of fraud. 61-year-old Lu Tzu-chung was taken to Eastern Magistrates Courts this morning. He's accused of submitting fraudulent documents to the Government Logistics Department on April 25th and dishonestly securing a government tender worth $52.9 million. The prosecution requested an adjournment to allow the police to further investigate the actual source of the bottled water and examine computers seized from the defendant's office. The magistrate adjourned the case until November 11th. The defendant was denied bail. His 51-year-old wife, who was also arrested in connection with the case, has been released on bail. She has to report to the police next month. Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury Christopher Hoy says price is not the only or even the prime consideration in the selection of water suppliers. A dedicated task force will convene a meeting this week to look into the matter. Jackie Lin reports.
Meeting the press for the first time 3 days after the incident came to light. Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury Christopher Hoy says the government is going to undertake a comprehensive review into the case and examine ways to improve their procurement system. He has said the interdepartmental task force established to look into the incident will meet this week and submit a preliminary recommendation report in 3 months. The Audit Commission will review the tendering process. The Government Logistics Department will handle the scandal's aftermath. The saga began with the government switching bottled drinking water suppliers for government use. The administration awarded 3 contracts worth a total of $166 million, saving $16 million a year. For the first time, the government procured bottled water from the mainland. Apart from Shinding Trade, another company is the Dongguan-based Professional Trade International, which supplies bottled drinking water to government offices in the new territories. Hoy says bidding prices were not the only criterion in the selection of suppliers. Other issues such as technology are also considered. He says the government has to reach out to the companies supplying drinking water to the government at the new territories and liaise with the stated manufacturer of the company to confirm their relationship with independent tests to ensure water quality meets drinking water standards. As for whether the government has paid Shinding for their services, Hoy says the relevant contracts have been terminated and the Government Logistics Department is following up on the case. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
It's understood Hong Kong police have conducted probes at an alleged Dongguan-based manufacturer of bottled drinking water supplied to the Hong Kong government by Shinding Trade Company. Shinding has been accused of selling counterfeit drinking water for official use. A logistics company says it helped transport water from the Dongguan manufacturer, which earlier denied collaboration with XDX. Jackie Lin with details.
Shinding Trade Company's bottled drinking water supply to Hong Kong government offices show 3 manufacturers in its label. One of them is the Mount Guanyin Drinking Water Company. Based on online information, TVB News headed to the Mount Guanyin mineral water plant at Jiangmutou town in Dongguan City of Guangdong. Its factory name matches the same name as the manufacturer. Factory staff told reporters that authorities had come to investigate and they only learned of the incident yesterday. They say they are victims as well. YTAD Logistics handled the transportation of the water bottles to the Hong Kong government on behalf of Shinding. YTAD says its warehouse in Yuen Long still holds some 2,600 bottles of drinking water from Shinding. YTAD's manager, Mr. Lau, told TVB News over the phone that they collected the water from Mount Guanyin water plant, with receipts issued by the plant and Shinding listed as a client name. Lau says his firm is supposed to receive more than $600,000 from XCX due last Friday, but no payment or response has been given by Xin thus far. Jacqueline, TVB News.
According to the latest government statistics, Hong Kong's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate went up to 3.7% in the May to July period. That's a rise from the 3.5% in the previous reporting period of April to June. More distinct jobless rate increases can be seen in the food and beverage services, retail, real estate, and the foundation and superstructure sectors in construction. Meanwhile, declines in the unemployment rate were observed in the cleaning, decoration, repair and building maintenance, and social work sectors. The number of unemployed people in Hong Kong rose by about 8,800 to 145,000 between May and July. The government says the uptick in the number of jobless people was partly attributable to the influx of fresh graduates and school leavers entering the labor market. U.S. President Donald Trump is trying to bring together Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Ukraine counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky for a face-to-face meeting. Trump met with the leaders of Ukraine and Europe at the White House to talk about the Russia-Ukraine war in the early hours of today, Hong Kong time. Trump called Putin after meeting Zelensky, who says he's open to talks. It could be a major step towards peace. David Garrett reports.
President Trump, the go-to guy for Vladimir Putin and now Volodymyr Zelensky. Set to be the go-between as direct talks between the Ukraine and Russian leaders move closer. It's not happened during the three-year conflict. We're ready for any format of meeting at leaders' level to solve complicated issues. We're ready for a bilateral meeting with Putin or a trilateral meeting. Zelensky also says he plans to buy US military equipment worth $90 billion with Europe's backing. America seems set to accept. Earlier, inside the White House, the Trump-Zelensky summit struck a completely different tone.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the president of Ukraine with us.
To the acrimonious slanging match that developed the last time Zelensky was here in February. Handshakes, praise, thank yous, and goodwill gestures.
Thank you, and using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, adopted children, and my wife, she, First Lady of Ukraine, she gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife.
This was the letter the US First Lady sent to Putin. Her husband has mentioned her before in his conversations about the conflict.
She sees the heartbreak, the parents, the funerals that you see on television, always funerals. We want to see something other than funerals. No, she felt it was a beautiful letter. It was very well received by him. And she did ask me to say, you know, she would love to see this end.
A more relaxed and cordial atmosphere compared to 6 months previously extended to Zelensky's attire after his previous dressing down.
You look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said the one that attacked you last time.
Yeah.
See, now I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelensky.
In the same suit. You see, I changed, you are not.
A map in the corner of the room showed Russian-controlled areas of Ukraine. Reports suggest Trump is trying to pressure Zelensky to accept the land for peace option. Trump says the US will help guarantee Ukraine's security and says Putin has agreed Europe will play its part too.
We'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved.
European leaders referenced NATO's Article 5, a principle of collective defence. They hope it could be a model for Ukraine's security. Later, Trump spoke with Putin for 40 minutes. Trump appears determined to bring the leaders and the countries closer together.
I love the Ukrainian people, but I love all people. I love the Russian people. I love them all. I want to get the war stopped.
David Garrett, TVB News.
A group of European leaders joined Zelensky and Trump in the talks at the White House about the Russia-Ukraine war. NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and French President Emmanuel Macron all mentioned security guarantees when asked by reporters about the outcome of the meeting. Daniel Rao reports.
Microphones picked up conversations that US President Donald Trump and European leaders had as they gathered for talks at the White House. Trump was overheard expressing optimism a peace deal could be reached with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think to set up a trilateral, you know. So we'll do that.
And where do you want to do?
I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. Just sit down. Sit down, everybody.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz praised the US commitment. However, he reiterated the demand for a ceasefire while negotiations to end the war continue. He stressed Ukraine should not be pressured into giving up any territory during talks. Merz said Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to meet within 2 weeks. French President Emmanuel Macron said several points that are important and that were not as clear a few days or weeks ago had been agreed on. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer highlighted the continued importance of Ukraine being at the negotiating table.
And that is a recognition of the principle that on some of these issues, whether it's territory or the exchange of prisoners, that is something where Ukraine must be at the table. And
General TV News.
The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has revoked more than 6,000 student visas for overstays and breaking the law, including for support for terrorism. The Trump administration has adopted a particularly hardline approach towards student visas as part of its immigration crackdown. About 4,000 student visas were canceled because the visitors broke the law, with the vast majority being assault, according to a State Department official. About 200 to 300 visas were revoked for terrorism. U.S. officials had said in the past that student visa holders are subject to deportation over their support for Palestinians and criticism of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza. Police in the Philippines have detained 2 suspects in connection with last week's fatal shooting of 2 Japanese men in Manila. The 2 were shot by a man who approached them when they got out of a taxi last Friday night. The shooter reportedly took the victims' belongings and fled on a motorcycle. The police say they're looking into the relationship between the suspects and the victims, as well as the suspect's motive. In Manila, Japanese nationals have been assaulted in 21 robbery cases involving guns since October 2024. Still ahead, sources say Hamas has accepted a proposal deal for a 60-day ceasefire with Israel. Myanmar to hold nationwide elections in December. And more about closing arguments in the Jimmy Lai national security trial. Welcome back. The prosecution in the landmark national security trial of Next Digital founder Jimmy Lai continued with its closing submission earlier today. The team accused Lai of continuing to encourage the U.S. and other countries to sanction Hong Kong after the national security law came into effect. Timothy Lee reports.
Former media mogul Jimmy Lai and 3 companies related to now-defunct newspaper Apple Daily have earlier been charged with collusion with foreign powers and publishing seditious publications. In the prosecution's closing argument, the team said Lai's collusion offense began in April 2019, when he gave talks in the U.S. on 2 occasions and suggested sanctioning China via his articles. On Lai's alleged offense of publishing seditious publications, the prosecution denied the defendant's claim that his Apple Daily articles merely contained critical comments, instead calling them unreasonable attacks, as he did not provide any suggestions or solutions. Judge Esther To raised concerns about whether a solution must be provided in a critical article, while Judge Alex Lee said Lai actually offered a solution as he suggested rescinding the extradition bill. The prosecution responded, noting that slanderous comments against the government causing people to lose confidence or become hostile towards authorities constitute seditious intent. The prosecution further said while Lai did not openly seek foreign sanctions on China after the implementation of the national security law, he encouraged countries such as the U.S. to sanction the mainland and Hong Kong by providing false descriptions of the city's situation. This, as the prosecution stressed, Lai was well aware of the serious nature of colluding with foreign powers, but emphasized he could not retreat but would only move forward. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Egyptian sources said Hamas has accepted a proposed deal for a 60-day ceasefire with Israel that includes the return of half of the hostages held in Gaza. This as international mediators made efforts to renew negotiations to stop the fighting after earlier talks fell apart in July. Danny Zhou has details.
The proposal from Egypt and Qatar was said to be based on an earlier plan put forward by U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, to which Israel had previously agreed. After mediators met with Hamas representatives in Cairo on Sunday, an Egyptian official source told the Associated Press that the new proposal includes changes to Israel's pullback of its forces and guarantees for negotiations on a lasting ceasefire in the initial phase. The official said the proposal also entails the return of half of the hostages held in Gaza and Israel's release of some Palestinian prisoners. Bassem Naim, a senior member of Hamas's political bureau, said on social media that the movement has accepted the new proposal. The head of the Egypt State Information Service said Egypt and Qatar have already sent the Hamas-accepted proposal to Israel. In a video address, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu noted reports of Hamas's acceptance showed it is under immense pressure. Meanwhile, Israeli tanks moved into Gaza's Sabra neighborhood on Monday, surrounding a school and a clinic operated by the United Nations. Israel's Army Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir said at a forum that the war had reached a turning point, and the army were prepared to intensify strikes against Hamas in Gaza City. Tel Aviv said it will agree to cease hostilities if all hostages are freed and Hamas lays down its arms. U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on social media, "We will only see the return of the remaining hostages when Hamas is confronted and destroyed," adding, "The sooner this takes place, the better the chances of success will be." Danny Zhou, TVB News.
Myanmar will hold its long-awaited nationwide elections amid an ongoing civil war. Authorities have announced December 28th as the date for the first phase. The Union Election Commission said the further dates for subsequent phases will be announced in due course. All 330 townships of Myanmar were designated as constituencies, and nearly 60 parties have registered to run in the multi-party general election. This will be the first vote since the junta seized power in the 2021 coup. It's widely seen as an attempt to lend the junta legitimacy. With large parts of the country held by pro-democracy resistance fighters or ethnic minority rebels, there is widespread skepticism that a free and fair vote will take place. Many opposition groups have said they will try to derail the election. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.